I'd like to start with a bold statement. The way we handle back pain in this country is an embarrassment. And coming from a neurosurgeon who spent 29 years now treating back pain, I recognize that I'm admittedly part of the problem. But in the spirit of the evolution of medicine, I intend to become part of the solution as well. When I started all those years ago as a neurosurgeon, I was obsessed with two things. One was to, in each individual patient that I had with back pain, I wanted to use the history, the physical, and whatever imaging was available to decipher that elusive pain generator. At the same time, which is, by the way, the holy grail of all spine surgeons. At the same time, I wanted to develop the technical expertise and embrace the technology that was out there to go in and fix it. And while there was some merit in that endeavor, I came to realize that what I was doing was not sufficient. And I thought perhaps there was a more holistic way of looking at back pain. So I want to take you to a story that took place some 25 plus years ago when I was a resident, and it probably planted the seeds for my interest in pain. I was on call. I got a phone call from a distraught patient who was threatening to blow her brains out with a .44 Magnum because she had such bad back pain. Of course, that got my attention. I sat up in bed and realized I had to talk her down to some extent. And while I did, while I answered her questions, I could palpably feel her relax on the other end of the phone. And when I thought it was safe to hang up, I impulsively asked her, "Oh, by the way, how does your back pain feel now?" She told me something that was startling. She had no back pain. I remember lying there in bed thinking, how can someone go from devastating back pain, of suicide magnitude, to no pain simply on the basis of a conversation? So from that time on, I always became interested in the brain's function in pain. And I wrote a book on back pain, and I came up with a 3-tier system of pain. I think it's helpful to think about that in terms of how to possibly treat it. So the stimulus is the first tier, and that's obvious. That's if you push a knife into your thigh, that's the knife, that's the pain generator I talked about before. But there are always two other components to pain. The second tier, which I've called the epiphenomenon, is really the reaction of the body to that stimulus. So, for example, with back pain, people may have spasm, or they may have postural changes, or they may have something called disuse atrophy, which is the capacity of muscles to generate pain from not being used. So you have the stimulus, the epiphenomenon, which is how the body reacts to stimulus, and finally, you have what I call the judicial function of pain. And that concept is that no matter what causes pain, the brain interprets that pain. But the brain doesn't only interpret the pain, the brain can act on that pain. And the brain has the capacity to make the pain greater or make the pain less, depending on what it wants to do. Now, we all recognize the term placebo effect, which really is the brain's capacity to make pain less. And I feel bad because the placebo effect has been demoted to the hierarchical status of voodoo medicine, whereas in reality, the placebo effect is an incredibly powerful and actionable phenomenon. It also has an evil twin sister, which is probably less familiar to most of you, called the nocebo effect, and that's the brain's capacity to increase pain or create pain. And although that sounds like gibberish, looking at entities such as chronic pain or fibromyalgia and a whole host of other things is probably best thought of through this nocebo effect. So the question is, what can we as practitioners do? We know that even back pain really takes place in the brain, not in the back. And of course, there is merit to finding a pain generator, otherwise I'd be out of a job. But the psychology literature supplies us with two methods of taking on that brain part of pain. And one is called self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is a term that pertains to confidence. Confidence in one's ability to either overcome a medical condition or to attain health. And closely related to that is the concept of autonomy. What I've noted over the years, which is fascinating, is that when people who have pain, once they let go of the idea of eliminating the pain and focus rather on ownership of the pain and ownership of the pain and I have to finish now or just, I have one more thing to say. So the second psychological concept is called embodied cognition. And embodied cognition is sort of a fancy word for the mind-body interface. And by exercising the body, we reflexively or recursively take the mind and we give it confidence and we change posture and then we can exercise more. It becomes a self-fulfilling positive feedback loop. So that's my message, self-efficacy and embodied cognition as a way of treating back pain other than finding the pain generator. Thank you.